So I know that, when we just talked, you said, you're in computer science. You went through a bunch of crap just to get there, or you're in Social Security. You went through a bunch of crap to get there. You did computer science in college. So like, what exactly is computer science, and let's start with that. What exactly is computer science?
So computer science entails a lot of programming, computer programming. Developing softwares, developing websites, and you know, so for websites you use HTML, CSS, and a little bit of Java. But when you create softwares like applications and stuff like that, you use like the heavy stuff. Like you use Java, Python, what other PHP. Don't ask me what those stands for because I don't know. Hence the reason why I didn't stick around.
Xcode.
Yeah, you use it's a lot of coding, and so computer science. You talk about, you learn what's inside of a computer because you need to know, what's inside of a computer to figure out what information you need to insert into your application. Because if you don't have a strong enough computer, then, the software or whatever you're going to develop isn't going to, work. So, if you don't mind, let's talk about the different parts of the computer, of what's inside of a computer per se.
Yeah. Just give us a few. You don't have to give us all of that.
All right. So I'm gonna give you the main points.
All right. Yeah.
Which is the motherboard, the CPU, and RAM. So the motherboard is a circuit board, which is the computer's main circuit board. And it holds the CPU, the memory connectors, and the hard drive, and other like disks and drives, like your stuff like that. And it directly or indirectly is responsible for every part of the computer to work. And then of course you have the CPU, which stands for Central Processing Unit, which is also called, and that's the CPU is located inside the computer case on the motherboard. So if you can, and it's a 2-inch, it's like a small little, disc. It's like 2 inches, and it fits right inside the motherboard. And it is also called the brain of the computer. And its job is to carry out commands. Whenever you press a key with either your mouse or your keyboard, say that you press the application key. The CPU is the one that sends instructions. It's the one that the CPU sends the instructions for the computer to get those commands out. And then the next up is RAM, which is random access memory, and that is a short-term memory. Whenever your computer performs calculations and temporarily stores the data within the RAM until it is needed. Remember, though, this is short-term, but if you want, so say that you turn off your computer, anything that you work on, when you turn that computer back on, it'll disappear. But if you want a long-term basis to a long-term memory, you would use a hard drive. So those are completely forgot about hard drive. But hard drive is just a more advanced random access memory. Again, also random access memory is also the more RAM you have, the faster and better your computer will work. Just because, if you have different applications open and you don't have a lot of RAM, your computer will be insanely slow. So the more RAM, the more applications you can work with and have open at the same time. So
let me just ask. So in the motherboard, right? The motherboard is like it's the base of a computer, right? Inside, and on that you've got the CPU, you've got the RAM. Is that right?
yeah,
And then you've got what the hard drive, is that separate or is that on the motherboard?
So I can't because I remember when I took some classes. I think you have to you connect those you connect those two using something. I can't remember off of the top of my head, but like hard drive is a huge disk is what I remember when I touched one or saw one. It's a humongous disk. I think you have to use wires to connect the motherboard and the hard drive, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
And so can you summarize what else is on the motherboard? You got the CPU, you got the RAM.
So what goes on a motherboard is also if you need different the different ports, like the hard if you like the what are those called, hard not hard drive, flash drive, DVD, the headphone jacks, any ports that you can think of that goes on your computer. The motherboard is also on the motherboard as well.
Okay, so there's just a little bit more on there. Where does the processor of the computer go? I mean, that's not on the hard drive? That must not be in the.
So that's a part of the CPU. It's like so. As I said before, like the CPU is a small is like a 2-inch disc type looking thing, but but within that CPU is like a little notch or a little knob that's like the size of your thumbnail or fingernail, and that is on the CPU, and that is the what is used.
So that's the processor, right? Like an A series, A7 series, or Apple's A12Z, or I'm sorry, the A14 processor, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so the chip is in the processor, correct? Okay, right.
Correct.
Now, where's the GPU at? Is that something you're aware of, or?
I came across it, but there wasn't much information on it.
I see. All right. Now, so they learn all of that in your computer science classes. You mentioned that you left, especially one thing was math, and you were struggling a little bit and all that. I have a friend that's in computer science, so I know he has to take calculus. What other math classes do you have to take, in computer science?
So with computer science, you need to do pre-calc, calc, and calc 1, if I'm not mistaken. I can't... it's recommended that you take all those, calc classes, and then, of course... Yeah, so those are the top classes that you need to take. The reason why I picked IT at the present time was because there wasn't much math involved. You really didn't need to know a lot of math in the IT field or in the cybersecurity field. And if you did need to know math, it was just basic stuff. But yeah, but for computer science, you need to know the calculus, possibly even more, to be in the computer science field.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, I don't think I could ever amount to all that math, but I mean, I'm fascinated by all that.
I tried, didn't work out too well.
I think most of us would say that about ourselves, especially. I mean, but I'm fascinated by what's inside the computer. I'm fascinated over how the CPU works, how the GPU works. Now, and it's like, oh, that's the brain, and that's where the processor's inside, and that's where, and for a computer, the processor can actually be very big because it's a computer. It's a large item. It's a large machine. But with a phone, it also has CPU. It also has.
Yeah, if you really think about it, anything is a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that has unfortunately I got rid of my notes from that computer science course that I took when I first started. But anything you can think of that has a CPU, that has a motherboard, or anything of that nature is a computer. Like even the smallest thing, like even a microwave is a computer. Even your refrigerator is a computer. Think of that. Like that is something I didn't know, and that's something that I learned like within the first few weeks that I was in the computer science course. Is that anything that has a CPU or whatever is a computer. So, because I